Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Next up for Japanese week, we're going to be looking at a LS kit of a Hayabusa, otherwise known as Allied Codename Oscar. This is the Ki-43 number 2, and this kit was produced in 1964. This is one of the first kits, or probably the first kit produced by LS. They made the Mark II and the Mark I of the Hayabusa at the same time in 1964, and it's believed that these are the first two model kits produced by them. This is kit number 2. The Mark I Hayabusa is kit number 1. And let's see, what else? Let's see, LS. Let's talk about LS a little bit. LS was formed in 1946, and they were producing other things, and then in 1964 is when they issued their first model kits. They became known as pretty high quality kits with finely engraved panel lines and producing subjects that other companies weren't producing, and were highly sought after in the kit making or the model making world. They lasted until about 1992 when they were sold to Ari, and Ari acquired their molds and reissued them. Then Ari also went under the name of Micro Ace, so we'll see a little bit more about them later. So we're not going to get too much into the history of the Hayabusa. It's a fairly well-known aircraft. There's a number of videos out there with history on the Hayabusa, so we'll leave you to view that. So let's look at the kit itself. And so here we've got the LS's logo up in the top here. Something about a laboratory, and this is a Japanese kit with lots of Japanese writing, so unfortunately I'm not versed in Japanese, so maybe some of our Japanese viewers can give us a little bit more information on what else is written on the box cover here. But we do have what appears to be the symbol for Ki-43, number 2. And we got Hayabusa and Oscar listed here as well. And down in the bottom corner here, this cost 100 yen, I believe is what that's representing there. And kind of a neat box art. Appears to be a watercolor painting. And in the background, you've got a Huck starter being used to start up the Hayabusa, which that's what this little thing at the front of the propeller hub was for. So it's kind of interesting that even in World War II, they were still using Huck's starters. And so let's look at the side of the kit here. And we've got, looks like a folding and a sliding canopy. I don't know if I mentioned, this is in 1/75th scale. These kind of odd scales were fairly common in Japanese producers. They made like 1/50th instead of 1/48th, 1/75th instead of 1/72nd, 1/87th for an HO scale, things like that. So this kit is a 1/75th, and almost all later issues of it listed it as 1/72, but it's not quite that. Opposite side here, we've got repeat of the top box art, more information about the kit itself, and the logo again on the end. I think this may be kit number 2 is what this represents, unless that's the 2 for the Hayabusa. And same thing on this end. So let's open it up. This is printed directly on cardboard and stapled box. Bottom is a folded and stapled box as well. And then here we have our instructions. It's printed on fairly thin but kind of slick paper. Looks like we've probably got a lot of history of the Hayabusa itself. Maybe some tips on building or the stages. And kind of a strange layout for the steps here. I've got a 3 view. We've got some specifications. We've got a map of all the parts on the trees. Not sure what this is. Probably a listing of the parts, I think. Looks like part numbers, and then whether there's 1 or 2 of them. Looks like there's a stand. And then the assembly instructions themselves. So we start with step number 1 here, go to 2, then 3, then 4, and drawing of the completed model sitting on a stand, and how to put the stand together. So as we can see here, let's see if we can glean a few things off the instructions. So here's the retractable gear. Looks like we've got a little hub that goes over there to hold the wheel on, which is kind of neat. We've got movable ailerons. Got a spinning prop. And looks like drop tanks are available. And then there's the sliding canopy, which was done with this post on the canopy, which would be a little challenging for accuracy with this little thing to slide in that little slot there. So no compromise on accuracy in order to get a moving part, which wasn't uncommon in the 60s. Then here we have the decals. Decals are fairly simple. We've just got the Japanese insignia. Looks like these are the stripes for the yellow striping on the leading edge of the wing. And then we've got these yellow arrows. So the arrow was the symbol for the 64th show tie. And the yellow, I believe, was for the 3rd, or I'm sorry, not Shotai, Sentai. So it's for the 64 Sentai, and the yellow was for the 3rd Chokai, which would have been the 3rd squadron within the group. And the box art shows a white stripe, which I think may have represented like a flight leader or the squadron leader's aircraft, but they don't give you a decal for that. This looks like something that would probably go on the stand. So you have your decals. And the kit appears to have come, this has been opened at one time, but it appears that the main parts were on here and then stapled, and then this bag was stapled, closed on here. And then you got a separate bag for the clear parts. So let's get this open so we can take a look at the kit itself. So take a look at the fuselage pieces first. And we've got, looks like engraved panel lines. A couple of locator pins. Let's see how this goes together here. There we go. Pretty tight fit. Very nice. So we've got engraved panel lines on the side. Unfortunately, we've also got engraved lines for the insignia. We've got some raised lines to represent the fabric-covered tail surface. Got our cowl flaps engraved. Then we see the slot here for the sliding canopy. Fairly thin trailing edge on here, which is nice. Kind of a delicate kit. And basically nothing in the cockpit other than a couple of pins probably to set the pilot on. So pretty nicely done. And let's look at the wings. So these come on one tree. We've got, again, engraved panel lining, but we've also got spots for the markings molded in pitot tube. So top of the wing. See large spots here for the movable ailerons, which I don't think are very accurate. And nothing representing the interior of the wheel well. Got a marking here for LS. You have a 1963 date. It's probably when the mold was made. And we have our cowling. No engine representation there. You have openings for the gun ports, which are nice. And then if we put propeller on there, yeah, so it's not really covering the entire engine area, so kind of lacking in detail there. They do have a little tip on there for the Huck starter. And then for additional pieces, we've got our tail, horizontal surfaces. Again, engraved panel line with raised panel lines, or raised lines for fabric covering. Here we've got our ailerons. Same thing with raised lines representing the fabric. Here's our gear. And so these being retractable are kind of set up with the pins and the little wedge to hold it in place. Interesting, has the gear doors molded on, but fairly simple. And then here we have our drop tanks, which don't look, from my recollection of the drop tanks, those don't look very accurate. Here we got our tires, additional little pieces, the hubs. And then we have our pilot figure, which, yeah, he's not too bad. A little bit of flash on him. Doesn't appear to be a lot of flash on the kit itself, except on this guy here. And then we have our clear parts. I'm not going to pull this out. I'm going to leave this as it is. But there's our stand, the LS badge on there, made in Japan. And then there's our canopy, extremely thick. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's a very thick canopy. And it does have panel lining, which feels like it's internal. And then we've got that post right there. And so that kind of detracts from the canopy. But it was an operating canopy, though. So there you have it. So fairly simple kit. I know the Hayabusa was a popular aircraft, so they're not the only ones that produced a Hayabusa. And maybe we'll get to compare this to some other ones later on. But not too bad for a first kit from a new maker at the time. You can see the kind of hints of some of their future quality with the fine engraved panel lining that was showing up as early as 1963, 64. So this kit was released quite frequently by LS. They had a reissue in 68, and at that time was shown as 1/72nd scale with new artwork. 69, there was another one, similar artwork, but it came with a motorized stand. What they would do with some of these kits is, rather than putting the batteries inside of the airplane, the batteries would be in the stand, and then they would put a connection into a motor inside. So they motorized this one, and that was in 69. 71 was another motorized issue. 73 was non-motorized with new art. 76, another different box art. And then sometime in the 70s, Scalecraft, which was a U.S. Distributor, imported these into the United States. So sometime in the 70s is when people in the U.S. were able to get a hold of this without having to get them from Japan. 1980, there's another issue with new art. Another issue in 85, and finally in the 90s, early 90s, there was a new boxing from LS. That's about the time that LS ceased to exist and sold their molds off to Ari. And so Ari did an issue in 95, and then their follow-up company, Micro Ace, did another issue in the 2000s, early 2000s, and then the final issue as recently as 2018. So this kit's still out there. You can probably find this in your hobby shop today under the Micro Ace boxing. And almost all those boxings still show it as 1/72nd scale as opposed to 1/75th. So it's going to be slightly under scale for your 72nd scale collection. So that's about it for this one. Just a pretty quick little vid on this. If you've built one of these in its various different guises, let us know about it in the comments section. And if you got one of these sitting on your shelves, definitely take a picture of it, send it in for our next viewer build. Thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.